Daidí agus fáilte go Irish with Rosie. In this video, I want to talk with y'all about the family members in Irish. This is actually a remake of a video I did a couple years ago now, and it was one of the first videos I ever did. So I want to redo it with better visuals and with a little bit of updated information. This will be a purely vocabulary based This video will be a purely vocabulary based video. But in a couple of videos I have planned coming up, I want them to be more conversation based. And I actually want to use for at least one of those some of the vocabulary that I'll show y'all here today. But let's jump right in and get started. The first word we'll need to know is the word for family. Chéile. Chéile. The next word you're probably already pretty familiar with, even if you don't speak Irish. And that word is clan. Clan. It also means family. But from what I understand, this word doesn't so much refer to family in general, so much as it does to one's collective children or offspring. You can also use this word to identify or name a specific family. So like Clan McSweeney, the McSweeney clan or the McSweeney family. The next word we'll need to know is gaeilge, relatives, gaeilge. In the pronunciation guide I have there, I have it literally spelled out as gaeilge, but that's not quite the sound you want to make. It's more like you try to say gaeilge, but without moving your lips. Gaeilge, gaeilge. That's the best way I know how to describe it. Now the word for husband. It's actually two words. Fear céile, fear céile. In the pronunciation guide there, I have it spelled out literally as fear céile. But that was more to make a point. It's not literally like ké. It's kind of like a weaker K sound that sort of gives way to the vowel after it. Fear céile. Can almost barely tell it's there, but I thought it was important to distinguish it from flat out céile. Now wife. Ban chéile. Ban chéile. We soften in this word the initial k sound of céile to be chéile. Now parents. Parents is tishmahori. Tishmahori. Children is páistí. Páistí. In the pronunciation guide, I have a W there because there is something of a W sound made, at least in Ulster. But it's not full blown. It's sort of subtle, but definitely there. Páistí. And I've even heard this being pronounced páistí in Ulster. In other dialects, it's going to sound more like páistí. Páistí. Because the A with an accent mark has an A sound. Whereas in Ulster, it'll sound more like ah to even eh. Now for grandparents. Shan tishmahori. Grandchildren, garfáistí. Garfáistí. Great-grandparents, shin tishmahori. And great-grandchildren, finói. Finói. Great-great-grandparents, I'm pretty sure you can figure this one out based on the pattern you've seen so far, but it's shin shan tishmahori. And great-great-grandchildren is duoi. Duoi. I have no idea where finói and duoi come from, etymologically, but that would be pretty interesting to know because those are fun words. Now for father. Father is ahar. Ahar. Mother, maher. Maher. Dad, dadge-ee. And mom, mommy. Mommy. Son is muck. And sons is mick. You've probably heard the word muck before in a lot of Irish and Scottish last names. You might even have one of those last names, such as McSweeney, like son of Sweeney. Daughter is nín. Now this is the Ulster way to say it. In Connacht, I believe this would be inín, and in Munster, inín. And daughters is nínacha. Grandfather, Shanaher. Shanaher, or you could say ahermore, ahermore. I believe that ahermore is a more common way to say it in the Ulster region. Shanaher literally means old father, whereas ahermore means big father. I think that's kind of fun. Similarly, with grandmother, there's also a choice to be made. You can say shanwaher, shanwaher, or maherwar, maherwar. Now the words for grandpa and grandma. I take it that these would probably be the words that you'd actually like call your grandma or grandpa because they're more like relaxed and casual. So grandpa is dadge-o and grandma is mamo. Now I think those are pretty cute grandpa and grandma names personally. And I don't know if it's like a southern thing or if it's everywhere, but at least where I'm from, there seems to be almost like a competition about who can have the most cute, unique grandpa and grandma name. I mean, of course you got your plain old like grandma and grandpa, but then you got your peepap and your papaw and your mama and your momo and your momaloo and your nene, and I've even heard a keegaw and a bumpa. But anyway, if you've got Irish heritage and you're a grandma or grandpa to be, I think dadge-o and mamo would be some pretty cute, unique grandparent names that maybe you could go by. Now for grandson. Grandson is garwak, garwak. Grandsons, garvik, garvik. Granddaughter, garneen. Granddaughters, garneenaha. Great-grandfather, shin shanaher, shin shanaher. Great-grandmother, shin shanwaher, shin shanwaher. Now the word for great-grandchild. This is a word that doesn't distinguish between great-grandson or great-granddaughter. It just means great-grandchild. And I'm guessing you'd understand what gender it would be by the context or something. Finno, finno. Great-great-grandfather, shin shin shanaher, shin shin shanaher. Great-great-grandmother, shin shin shanwaher. And great-great-grandchild, again with no distinction between great-great-grandson or great-great-granddaughter, is duo, duo. Okay, now we have the word for brother. This one is so hard for me to say, and I don't know why. Maybe because there's like too many r sounds in a row. Alright, but here we go. Jarhar, jarhar. Brothers, jarharha, jarharha. Sister, jerfur, jerfur. Sisters, jerfuraha, jerfuraha. Uncle is uncle, and uncles is uncailí. Aunt is anchin, and aunts is anchini. Now for nephew, nia, and nephews, niana, niana. Niece, nyacht, nieces, nyachtna. Granduncle, shanuncle. Granduncles, shanuncailí, shanuncailí. Grandaunt is shananchin. Grandaunts, shananchini, shananchini. And we're on the home stretch here, y'all. Grandnephew, garnia, garnia. Grandnephews, garniana, garniana. Grandniece, garnyacht, and grandnieces, garnyachtina. Now for cousin and cousins. Cousin is kal kaher. I've also seen it spelled where it's kal kaher, but kal kaher is easier to say for me, so I'm sticking with that version personally. So kal literally means like degree, and kaher means of 4 people. So it's like degree of 4 people. So I was wondering how this works, so I looked it up, and basically like you start with yourself and then work up, over and down by degrees until you reach your cousin. And for your first cousin, that will be 4 degrees. So let's try it. Okay, so you start with yourself. You go up 1 degree to your mom or dad. You go up again another degree to his or her parents, your grandparents. Then you go down another degree to your aunt or uncle, and then down another degree to their child, which is your first cousin. That's 4 degrees, called chéile. Now, your first cousin once removed, which would be your first cousin's child, would be called cúigear, I believe. So degree of 5 people. Your second cousin would be called chéile, etc. But anyway, I'm not like completely confident in how all that cousin stuff works, not even in the English cousin system, but I did my best. Now, you're probably in everyday life, you're not gonna refer to a cousin beyond your first cousin, so that's what I have here, called chéile, and the plural called chéilecha. Now for a few useful add-ons. First, let's talk about how to convert a regular family member into an in-law. Okay, so when I was researching this, I noticed there are generally 3 add-on words that you can put after a family member name to indicate that he or she is an in-law. And those words are céile, my, and clownish. Céile, like we talked about before, literally means like companion. My means good, so I guess like you could call your brother-in-law like your good brother or something. And then there's clownish. I don't remember what that literally means, but I remember coming away with the impression that clownish was a little bit more like legalistic. So maybe it literally means like in-law or by marriage or something. But as I was going through all the different family members in-law on folklore.ie to prepare for this video, I noticed that there were different ones of those words used for each family member. So I came away with the impression that some of those words are acceptable to use with some family members, but not with others. But the one consistent word that seemed to be acceptable with any of the family members, except for maybe 2, which I'll get to in a minute, was céile. So that's what I'm going to present to y'all today, because if there's one you want to memorize, it's probably céile. So, after a family member, we'll add céile if it's a male family member, or a plural of family members that's a broad plural. I'll explain what that is in a minute. If it's a female family member or a plural of family members that's a slender plural, we'll use the lenited softened version, chéile. I'll give you some examples now. First we have jarhar céile, brother-in-law. That's a male person in the singular, so we choose céile. Next, sisters-in-law, that's a plural, jar furaha céile. Even though those are females, we still chose céile because the last vowel in that word is an A, making it a broad plural because A, O, and U are broad vowels. Then we have mahar chéile. Mahar is mother, which is female, so we'll choose chéile. Mahar chéile, mother-in-law. But fur chéile, husbands. Now technically that's not an in-law, but it still works with the point. The last and only vowel in the word fur, men, is an I. E and I are both slender vowels, so this is a slender plural. Therefore we'll choose chéile, fur chéile, husbands. But son and daughter-in-law have their own unique words you can use. So clown, and you can almost hear that word I told you about earlier, clownish, in that. And daughter-in-law is banchlowen, banchlowen. Now to convert an ordinary family member into a step family member, we'll add a prefix, las, las. And where possible, the prefix las will cause lenition or softening to the beginning of the rest of the word. Now, of course, you might remember from before, we can never lenite vowels or L, N, or R, and some instances of S. But for this particular prefix, also watch out because you can't lenite D, T, or S words as well. Why? Because of the dentals before dots rule. I think I talked about this at least once before, but I'll recap it for y'all. If the letter D, N, T, L, or S comes immediately before D, T, or S, D, T, or S will not be softened or lenited, even in cases where they normally would. I'll give you an example here in just a second. But first, let's look at stepfather. Lasaher, lasaher. Father, aher, starts with an A, a vowel, so we won't change it. Just add las. Then stepmother, laswaher, laswaher. We will soften or lenite the initial M because M is a completely lenitable consonant. But because of dentals before dots, we won't lenite a word like jerfor, sister, after the prefix las, because las ends with an S and jerfor starts with a D, so las jerfor, not las yerfor. Now for X, ear, ear. And with this prefix, you will also lenite the beginning of the rest of the word where possible. But we won't have to think about dentals before dots in this case because ear ends with an R, which is not D, N, T, L, or S. So ex-husband, ear are chéile. When we lenite an F, it becomes completely silent. So far chéile, ear are chéile. Ex-mother-in-law, ear waher chéile, ear waher chéile. We did lenite the M in maher. And last, although I don't know why I picked a sad note to live on, but last we have late. So late is nachmaren, nachmaren. And I believe that literally means not living. So for example, moak nachmaren, my late son. Okay, that's all I had for y'all today. In the next video, I want to do how to introduce yourself and others in Irish. And with any luck, we'll get to use some to maybe a lot of the vocabulary that we learned in this video. And if you enjoyed these slides that I had up on the video and found them useful, you can find them on my Instagram and now on my Facebook. I don't post nearly as many things to my Facebook, but I'll always post my video slides there because I discovered that through Facebook, you can easily go to my page and then photos and albums and then just download right to your phone or computer the show notes or the slides that I have here. Whereas on Instagram, it's a little bit of a pain and you'd have to like individually screenshot each one, which is kind of a lame way to do it. So be sure to follow me on Facebook too. Anyway, that was my video for today and I'll see y'all later. Slán go fóill!